Well, what a week this has been. And I realize we have kept our, what we call them, Pat, faithful witnesses. We've kept them
Yes,
waiting long enough. It's
I,
time that we give them our wisdom.
I have to give a special mention to Paul Hume, who said he was written on this.
Well, yes, Paul, you can wait no more. It's all your birthdays have come in one. Here we are.
Yeah.
Anyway, why don't we start? Do you know that this week is like, Pat? It's like the
What?
thick of it. You know the
Aye.
thick of it? Where people are
Yeah,
shouting at each other and panicking. And are you on
oh,
his
Jesus,
side? Are you on my side?
something I
Oh,
watched last
I must
weekend.
say, I couldn't get enough of it. I
Aye,
kept switching around. France 24 were
yeah.
doing it, and Sky was doing it, and
I was
CNN
doing the
was doing
same.
it.
I was sitting. I was getting ridiculous. I can't remember his first name. I think his second name, his surname is Doyle. He's the group editor for the Irish Independent, and I
Uh,
saw him for a wee while yesterday morning on one of the programs, and
yeah.
he said that it was actually becoming ridiculous that he was sitting up to 3 o'clock in the morning. He was back up again at 7 to see what was happening, type thing. But I agreed with him totally.
I know. Well, I we make a cutoff point when it gets near 11.
Yeah,
But anyway, let's talk about it then. It's obviously we'll start with the efforts to win the seat of prime minister. You have Boris hurrying from over the water. You have
Dominican
Penny.
Republican. He was on the holidays again. The Dominican Republican.
Yeah,
Jesus,
looks like a
yeah,
dream place
yeah.
too. Penny, fragrant Penny, who's was sent
Mordant.
to a Catholic school, Pat. Catholic school,
Yes,
huh?
yeah,
Named after a battleship. Her
yeah.
dad was in the parachute regiment. Oh, jeez. And Rishi,
None. Rishi Sunak.
there's Rishi with his non-dom wife and his loads of money. I mean,
Yeah,
you really couldn't make it up. You could
yeah,
not make it up. And I suppose the prince of the whole thing is Boris himself. I
yeah,
mean, that's the thing that everybody's looking at. And
yeah,
he's busily, as we speak, maybe he's landed by now, but he's been zooming across the Atlantic to get into the thick of it, as we said. What do you
yeah.
think of his chances, Pat?
Well, Rishi apparently has reached the 100
Yeah.
MPs already,
Hmm.
and so on. Dude, I don't even know where to start here. I really genuinely don't. Dude, if the Brits bring back Boris, I think we are reaching farce. I really genuinely do. Talk about Back to the Future. Right. Dr. Deirdre Heenan came out with a line the last day, which I thought was perfect. She says the original sin of all this
Oh,
chaos
yeah.
is Brexit.
Yes,
She's
right.
everything stems from Brexit. And I
Absolutely.
think she's 100% right. I think it's one of the best observations
Right.
I've come across. And
Right.
it's simple as this. And that started with a lie.
Yeah.
350 million a week
Right.
for the health service NHS.
And
Dude,
Boris did the painting onto the bus
Boris
himself, so
and
to speak.
Dominic Cummings were the two guys who came up with this
Yeah.
wheeze that and to con the British people and to
Yeah.
all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Since then, it's been lie after lie after lie after lie, division, controversy, whatever. Dude, Britain's divided down the middle, nearly 50-50.
Yeah.
Look, by the way, do you know the one? I should have started off with this. Do you know that the 4 weeks of Liz Truss, or 5 weeks, the Bloombergs have said it costs the British economy at least 500 billion, not million, 500 billion, and the stocks and bond markets have been so politics does have a real impact
Oh, it has a
on,
real pull
you
for
know.
sure.
So I don't even know. Here's him. Boris is flying back as we speak, apparently,
Yeah.
or maybe has landed, as you say, and he's back from the Dominican Republic. He's told some guy who I think was his former campaign manager that he's up for it, that he's got the mandate because he was the prime minister, or the guy who won the election for him, and he's back up for this. And now he only resigned in September, isn't it? Wasn't that it?
Yeah, something
September.
like
So,
that.
yeah. So right here he is coming back. We just take him down. He lied to Parliament. He lied about Partygate. He's under investigation. He was sacked from 3 jobs.
Yeah.
The Queen, my dear Mrs. was reading something this morning. She said about the Queen. Apparently, the Queen detests them. That she believed in serious politicians, and she didn't like this sort of confrontational lying style that he has. So, I don't know, but the Tory party seem to love him.
Aye, but Pat, I think you have to. It's like, are you feeling lucky, punk? Uh, do you feel that this man is an electoral asset? The fact of the matter is, he was a fantastic electoral asset. The
Yeah,
Tory party, no party ever had anybody like this.
yeah,
He smashed the red walls in the north.
yeah,
He got a majority of 80 MP majority. Incredible.
yeah,
On the other hand, as you pointed out, there is a side of him which is, not to put too fine a gloss on it, is the lying shite side.
yeah,
So it depends on, do you feel lucky? Will I
yeah.
get the lying shite, Boris, or will I get the man who will sweep Sir Keir and all the Labour people away and rehearse what he did in the last election? See, it's very hard to pass by Boris in those terms. When you look at him and think of him in action and interacting with the public, and then you
Yeah.
think of Keir Starmer interacting with the public, it's or even Richie Sunak or even Penny Mordaunt, much as I admire her, I think Boris is head and shoulders above both of them in that respect.
But do you know? No, I think a lot of people, they're great campaignners, but
Yeah.
not great rulers.
Well, that could be the problem. But you
I
have to
think
get into office
he
first.
you
You
need
have to get into
serious people.
office. There's no
Say
good
again?
being serious if you can't get votes.
Yeah, no, yeah, but it's like the guy who can talk a good talk, but when he gets to Manchester United, can't deliver.
But he is delivering.
Boris.
Would deliver. I think if he got the gig, at least he did the last time, he would deliver the votes. Now, as you say, he wouldn't perhaps deliver the government that was necessary. In fact, he
No.
certainly wouldn't. But then again, he would have people around him who would be capable of keeping the boat.
By the way, Jude, a lot of the Tory party thinks he did deliver. But Jude, I heard the last day. I can't remember now off the top. I think it was Question Time about our economy is now. We have the highest rate of employment and all the rest. Jude, it's so dishonest. There are now more, as we've said before, there are now more food banks than there are McDonald's in Britain. Branches of McDonald's in Britain. People having 2 or 3 jobs are going to food banks. No, like there was a nurse on the radio. I heard her on a couple of weeks back. She's saying even after whatever, she is still now going to food banks to supplement her food. And there was a doctor on yesterday. I meant to try and find it this morning. She said a child actually fainted in her presence from hunger. And she says she gave her 2 apples, and she says, "No, what's happened? The child ate 1 apple and put the other one in her pocket to go home to give it to her sister."
Well, we know the situation, Pat. We know things are in a dire position. But what we're faced with immediately is who's going to be leading the Tory party, and therefore who's going to be the Prime Minister for the present, at least. And
can I actually stop you there? Do you seriously think? I have got an issue with this because I think one of the reasons Rishi Sunak didn't become the last Prime Minister the last time, because he was easily the most competent, was the colour of his skin.
Oh yeah, of course, that goes without saying. You bet your sweet baby. But at the same time, think about Rishi Sunak and his enormous wealth, his non-dom wife.
Yeah.
Will he understand? Will he be in touch with people? Will he not be so used to looking after guys like himself who make huge sums of money on the market and in other ways? Then if you look at Penny, I mean, Penny's really nice looking, but the fact of the matter is she really hasn't done very much. She, at least as far as I can see, I know she was a minister in different things, but she, as a political figure put beside Boris, I mean, Boris is head and shoulders above her. So in terms of choice of the 3, it's a tricky one. I think you probably can count out Penny. She's not in the same league, I think. So you're Rishi versus Boris. I think the Tories have got to decide, do they want to have a Rishi who, as you say, is a capable guy? He's done the job of Chancellor before. He does seem to know the facts and figures. You would sort of trust him to lead you through the morass that public finance is in now. On the other hand, if you could see him campaigning, is he going to change the electoral fortunes of the Tory party from 18% or something that it's in now? There's only one person can do that, at least in a short time, and that's Boris Johnson.
I'm amazed at your sort of view of Boris. I regard Boris as a clown.
I think, well,
Absolute
no,
clown.
he's not a
And
clown,
I, no,
though.
and
No.
I think he conned everybody to get elected.
Oh,
I
that's
think once,
smart. That's
yeah. But once he got elected, I think he's been proven to be a clown. You know, some of the
well,
stuff he has done has been, you know, lying, coming in. Oh no,
yeah,
no, I didn't go to parties. And then here's the evidence that you did.
yeah,
You know, he tried to prorogue Parliament. He went up and lied to the Queen. You know, he's been proven time after
yeah,
time
yeah.
after
But do you
time.
think the Tories, a lot of the Tories already, several Tory MPs have said, yeah, I'm behind Boris. Jacob Rees-Mogg says it's Boris or bust. And the fact of the matter is they're in an awful hole and they need something spectacular to happen. And, you know, spectacular doesn't tend to go with Rishi nor Penny. It does tend to go with Boris.
But right, they're 36% behind in the polls.
Yeah.
Do you think bringing back Boris is going to? Jude, Boris was the guy who led them down this path to 36% behind. You know, and he was getting there as fast as what do you call it? Liz Truss, nearly forgot her already. You know, so I think, Jude, I think it's farcical. I think it's almost comical. But the point is here.
It's comical. It's comical. But who do you think's going to win it? Who are they going to nominate, or who's going to come through?
I think there's enough sensible people. You would hope there are. Dude, there's 357 Tory MPs. And if they think bringing back Boris is going to help them retain their seats the next time round, the only thing that matters right now is the economy. By the way, just digressing a second, what the hell Richie Sunak knows about Ireland or about other bits of politics? His main frame of reference seems to be economics, but that's what they're looking for right now. And I'd say he is the one person that can deliver for Britain what they need right now, and that is economic stability.
Well, you could say that's probably true. All right, I'm not sure that'll bridge that gap in terms of popularity. But take this last point, and then we'll move on to another thing. If we're talking about the Prime Minister that's most likely to be an asset for Scottish independence and an asset for a border poll and a united Ireland, Boris is your man.
Oh, aye.
Boris is the greatest asset we have.
Boris will probably unite Ireland and Scotland quicker than.
Well, I mean, shouldn't we be? We need to keep that in mind. That's why I would say I'd be delighted if he would be.
Yeah, by the way, I didn't say I wouldn't be delighted, but I think it'd be good. Boris will easily, like, if I was a unionist, I was about to say something rude. I would not be welcoming Boris back. Boris's priority on each and every occasion is he's an English nationalist. Yeah. He doesn't give a monkeys about Northern Ireland. He doesn't give a monkeys about Wales. He doesn't give a monkeys about Scotland.
And neither do most English people. Neither do most English people.
Yeah.
So right.
There's 5 million. I don't know many people in Wales. There's maybe 2 million. There's 5 or 6 million Scottish. The UK is 65 million, so it must be about 57, 58 million people in England, and they're just calling the shots. So and I think the gift that keeps on giving is the Tory party for Scottish independence.
That's right, but the real at the core of that gift lies that golden nugget called Boris, and that's why I would want it. It's like the Republicans I know, and I'm sure you knew some as well, who voted in the referendum, the Brexit referendum, voted for Brexit because they knew that this cluster cluck would come down the line eventually. So anyway, I think it's marvelous. It depends on whether the people, the Tory party members believe that they will get Boris, who's the red wall wrecker, or they're going to get Boris, the dangerous, self-destructive loose cannon. So...
but the English love him. He says he's like the flag waving guy at the Republic of Ireland guy. That's our guy and all the rest. And they don't seem to see that the rest of the world sees a clown. It's like the Americans and Trump. The right wing. They just see what they want to hear.
Okay. Well, let's talk for a wee while about the implications for here, because Chris Heaton, as things stand, Chris Heaton Harris, that's the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, has said that he's going to call an election on Friday, 6 days from today.
Yeah.
Now, do you think he's going to do that?
Judy, I'm presuming he's still in post, by the way. Jude, I think he does, because he says, like, wait a minute, this is the law. He says, we don't have any choice in this. This was the deal. Now, I haven't seen, and you have seen, Jude, as well, where the law, they'll find a way around it and so on.
Exactly, Pat.
But I haven't said it right now. See, Jude, I'm very cynical about it. I have long held the view that what the DUP is at is not about the protocol that much, is they're using the protocol. Okay, that's an issue, of course it is. But I think the bigger issue is the psychological thing in their minds. We are not going into Stormont as second to Sinn Féin. And I think that is the big issue. And they're not saying it publicly, but I think they have a major issue with that. And I presume, and I'm being cynical here, but I think Sir Geoffrey decided, look, we're going to go hardline in the protocol. Hopefully won back a lot of the people who deviated and went off, weren't happy about a whole lot of things, that we're going to bring back the hard line, the people who voted for Jim Allister and whatever other parties, and we'll come back as the main party again.
Do you think they would welcome an election then?
Well, I think they would welcome an election quicker than they would going on as first deputy minister to Sinn Féin first minister. Psychologically, Jude, that's a big difficulty for unionism.
True. But I don't think they're going to get this election. I know Chris Heaton-Harris has said now he's going to have to call an election next Friday. I don't think he is. There was somebody on last night or the night before, and I gather he can, if he wishes, he can put it off to January or February, as long as it's within a reasonable time of the non-formation of an executive, that he could. See, the point is, if he calls it now, the election will be before Christmas. Now, the guy who's the new Prime Minister in 10 Downing Street is hardly going to get his arse warm in the seat. So do you think he's going to welcome having this thing going on in Northern Ireland with, all sorts of blood and brimstone speeches being made, and the British people beginning to worry again about these bloody...
And Jude, let's get this clear too. The alternative, if this whole thing falls apart in the north, it's not going to be a direct rule from London. Can you imagine now Sinn Féin sort of accepting that? I wonder, have the unionists or the DUP in particular thought this through? Mm-hmm. If they tried to, if the executive fails, and I think it could well do, because I think if Britain tries to bring in some sort of protocol that neither the EU or Dublin will accept, there's no way then. You ever think about that, Jude, by the way? That maybe then Sinn Féin will turn around and say, wait a minute, we're not going back in under these circumstances. Maybe if London acts unilaterally and the DUP say, oh, this is great, and the EU and Dublin say, no, it's not. This is actually a total breach of an agreement, and we're unhappy with it. Can Sinn Féin go back into an executive against the background of that?
I don't think so. But Mary Lou McDonald was talking about this and the notion of direct rule within the last day or two. And she's made the point that if the DUP think that what will follow their not forming an executive or helping form an executive is that there will be direct rule from London, they're living in a dream world. She says it will be essentially joint authority. It'll be.
I didn't realise she'd said that, but that's sort of obvious, because there's no way Sinn Féin can accept their direct rule anymore.
But you see, if that happens, that's good news. In my opinion, as somebody who favours United Ireland, that's good news, because it's a sort of a bridge to United Ireland, where you have the Irish, South of Ireland government involved more directly in the running of Northern Ireland. And what we want is in a border poll where the government, I suppose not necessarily the present government, but a government centred in Dublin will be running all of Ireland. That sounds to me a good recipe.
Yeah, but Jude, I have mentioned on my other life, my column on a certain newspaper, I mentioned the fact that, like, Jude, I used to talk to Republicans regularly, and I met them regularly. I used to come down to the office and one of the strategies that I kept hearing, make this place ungovernable, make the Brits so pissed off. They're saying that, look, wait a minute, as soon as we can get rid of it. Right. And the aim of the Republicans back then was to piss off the Brits big time.
Yeah.
Right. Who's doing the pissing off the Brits now? You can bet your life. Remember, I keep referring to Dominic Cummings as one, but he was reflective, I would claim, of a lot of people. I don't care if the and he used a rude word, took Northern Ireland off, and it submerged out. Dude, there's so many, and even I hear now some unionist leaders saying we can't trust the British government. Now, if that's all going back to Westminster, why would Boris Johnson or Richie Sunak, whoever's the next PM, they're going to look for a deal with the EU? Particularly, they now need a trade deal. They need favorable. They need friends. They need allies.
Yeah, I think myself, there's something verging on hilarious about the DUP demanding from the Tories that they do what they tell them. You know, that they make sure that Northern Ireland's an integral part. That there isn't really, as you say, a problem there. The problem is not so much the protocol. There are small difficulties, I guess, but the big problem is to have to be second fiddle to Sinn Féin. Now, if there's an election, whether it's January, February, or in 12 weeks' time, I think certainly Sinn Féin shouldn't lose any votes. I don't see the DUP doing particularly better than they've done. Maybe they will, but they're not going to.
They only need 1 or 2 seats extra to get back into the top position again.
But that's sort of farcical to be concerned with that anyway. We know.
But the protocol is important to them. I'm not disputing that. I can understand where they're coming from, and so can you. But the point is, I think that psychologically, Jude, the whole basis of the foundation of the Northern State was a unionist parliament for unionist people. And that's the raison d'etre of the whole bloody thing. That's what partition was all about. The day that Michelle O'Neill goes in and some royal comes over and she's first in line, psychologically, that is massive.
But Pat, the thing is this, even the best scenario you can imagine was to occur. If there was an election and if the DUP was to come out as the biggest party again, you can't rub out what has now happened.
No.
The best that they have got to say, well, we're top dog. We're not sure how long we're going to be a top dog. We weren't top dog a while ago. How are we going to keep this up? Now, the fact of the matter, look at history. You can see the way it's moving. It's moving away from people like the DUP and their sort of, what do I call it, primeval views, and moving towards Sinn Féin.
But Jude, hold on a minute, Jude. See, yesterday, while I was in Dublin, I was sitting watching TV for a wee while, and I heard that the ERG group are demanding that the next prime minister, depending who it is, obviously they're going to support Boris. But anyway, yesterday when it wasn't clear if he was running, that the Northern Ireland protocol be implemented in full, etc., before they would, and they want basically it's English nationalism they're going for. So, if Boris comes back and basically goes for the protocol as currently before Westminster. Jude, how does the Dublin reacted? How does the EU reacted? And if unionism gets their way, how does Sinn Féin react? So we're back to square one. So maybe Rishi Sunak might be much more what do you call it, amenable to sort of a compromise and sort of say what's best for both of us.
Well, we know ourselves that the problems with the protocol, whatever they are, can easily be fixed. The EU is in mode for doing it, and we know that Liz Truss was in agreement with them almost as to the need for this to be sorted. I think the British people would say, look, get this bloody thing fixed out of the way and let's get on, because they have enough problems of their own. So the DUP thinking that the world revolves around them is like the guys that thought that the sun revolved around the earth rather than vice versa.
By the way, Jude, can I digress for Steve Baker, who was the sort of chairman of the ERG group and all the rest of it, and he's now a Northern Ireland minister. And he's making emolument words to, I apologize for my hard line and all the rest. I thought it was brilliant during the week. He did an interview with Krishnan and Gertu Murthy, the Channel 4 guy.
That's and before he was thrown off for a month for saying bad words.
He says, when it was finished, he thought he was, and he went, what? And he used the C word. and I thought, there's what by the way, one of the best journalists operating in Britain thinks of the ERG.
Yes, indeed. Okay, listen, let's leave that. Draw a veil over this. As you said, what it comes down to in the end is that this sewage pump of Brexit has drenched politics in the north and in all of Britain.
Oh, Jude,
Just
can
drenched
I,
and screwed up
absolutely.
so many things.
But no, Jude, I know I'm bringing back. Know your favorite penny, the
Yeah,
fragrant penny.
fragrant penny. Penny
You
for your
just love her,
thoughts.
but I had a laugh. I was reading a wee bit yesterday where she said she was running in the national interest. I love the way, I'm doing this for the country.
But they all say that. They all say that. I want to serve my country.
Like, Jude, I'm leaving to spend more time with the family. You got sacked. But I read it when I read she was doing it in the national interest. I was thinking, give us that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, why should she be different from other politicians, I guess? Okay. We have about, what, 5 minutes left? No, 6 left. Do you want to talk very briefly about Trump and Bannon?
I
go to jail, They're both going to jail.
Bannon's been told he's going to serve 4 months. Now he's going to appeal it and so on. But Jude, I don't understand. See, I think we were living through a very strange time. I see there's massive parallels between Trump and Bojo.
Of course.
This right-wing populism, divisive, no attempt to unify the country. As long as we're in power, we don't give a monkeys about the other crowd. Right. And that's Trump. Yesterday, the House committee that's investigating things said there's overwhelming evidence that you were front and center on the attack on the Capitol building, and that we have evidence to prove it now, and apparently he has to give evidence under oath, and if he lies, that becomes a criminal offence for which he could be jailed.
Yeah, very quickly now, because we want to try and squeeze in one or two others. Do you think either Bannon or Trump will go to jail?
Bannon will go to jail, in my opinion. Trump, they'll never send the president to jail, not in my opinion.
Okay. Do you see repercussions if Bannon's sent to jail?
Yeah, but Jude, he deserves
blood on the street.
No, Jude, like the Americans seem, the Republican Party seem to think that an attack on the democracy, that it's partisan and it's okay. And but what they're saying is basically Trump. He tried to deny democracy, that he basically said the handing over of power, and that he tried to say that he had won an election that he hadn't won. Dude, that is massive. Right, say the next time around, the Democrats say, hey, we don't give a shit with it, what the election results in. We're staying in power.
Yeah.
If there's no sanction on Trump and Bannon, what does it say to the next group?
Yes. Well, that leads us nicely to another topic. And that is, I think we touched on this the last day, but I just can't help coming back to it. It's the bit where Micheál Martin is saying that the Sinn Féin is intimidating the RTE with its threats, and individual TDs as well, with their threats of a legal suit because they claim that they have been libeled. Yeah. And he's saying this is very sinister and destabilizing. This is crazy. This is blaming the victim. So I say something libelous about you, and you issue a suit against me. So like, who's the bad person? You, because you defend your name, or me because I said you were X, Y, and Z. That thing, I cannot believe that Micheál thinks that people are so dumb as that they will take that sort of talk. They're not questioning the law that is there. What they're saying is Sinn Féin are daring to use that law. I mean, this is what they've been spending all their time for the last 30, 40 years. Make them Sinn Féin be law-abiding. Republicans shouldn't be engaged in acts of violence. And now they find themselves up against it. I just think it's absurd. The two people, incidentally, who are taking the suits, well, there's quite a few of them actually, and they've won some, but at present, I gather Jerry Kelly and Mary Lou McDonald are taking suits. Now, I don't know if they're taking them directly, but I know the names of Malachy O'Doherty and Ruth Dudley Edwards have been mentioned. Now, I'm not saying that they have libeled them. I'm saying their names have come up in stuff that I have read. And, it really has come to the stage that maybe some people are only picking up on the fact that you're not allowed to say whatever you feel like saying about politicians.
Jude, I remember, and I don't remember the details, I genuinely don't, but I remember Martin McGuinness having a discussion. There's someone said about Martin, and it's a long time ago, and it was totally untrue, and I knew it was totally untrue, and he was in the office one day, and I said, Martin, why don't you, delete? He says, Pat, no, grow up. He says, what do you reckon my chances are, And I can't even now remember whether it's the north or the south I was chatting about, but I remember very clearly having the conversation, that much I do. And Jude, here's the point. I sort of have to totally agree with you. I was listening to Owen O'Brien. He was on Drive Time last Monday after me and you had finished, and I heard him. And they brought up they referred to the Taoiseach's claim, and he says, with the greatest respect, he says, if people would, if you didn't label us, we wouldn't be taking label case. He says you're entitled to criticise us and entitled to say, but he says, if we, like, what he meant was, if we go to court and won a label case, you shouldn't have said it in the first place because the court agrees it was label.
In some ways, that is so blindingly obvious.
Yeah.
So is Micheál must be seriously desperate when he says, he starts going on about this.
Yeah.
I suppose it's really a plea for help. Come back to the good old days when we could say whatever the hell we liked.
I think that's a lot of it. And, like I remember certain columnists, referring to even academics quite recently. And I'm not going to mention it because I don't want to get involved in label, which I thought was very dangerous and so on. But anyway, let me go.
Hey, Pat, what's that? I don't get that one. What are you saying?
Well, there was a certain columnist referred to young Harvey,
Colin Harvey, yeah.
Colin Harvey. I thought was pretty, it was sort of setting him up.
Oh, I see.
And it was sort of way that he was sort of getting named publicly. Like he was an academic. By the way, Albert Reynolds frequently issued label writs, and he was a Fianna Fáil politician.
Well, that's different.
By the way, I'm not accusing anybody of saying it,
they're allowed to do it.
But what I'm saying about young Harvey, he was just an academic, and like I thought that was a very unfair, and I don't think he deserved it.
Of course it was. Colin Harvey told me that the first thing that happened when he made his, sort of in favour of United Ireland public, he said that the unionists contacted his boss in order to have him chastised.
There's been 3 or 4 public outings of him by various people, which I think is actually very unfair. Yeah.
Pat, the time is up. Do you think?
Okay, Judd.
Do you think will Paul Hume be happy now?
Oh yeah, I am.
I mean, he's not happy now. He'll never be bloody